1 second. I hear feedback. Senator Butler. Jason Powell.
Applications of these technologies here in the state of Alabama. That's kind of our long-term mission is to put some of those ideas out here. We don't have to solve all those things today. But one thing we do want to try to get to is a lot of other states in our union have looked at different ways of dealing with drone technologies from a procurement standpoint. The federal government has looked at some of these things. So we are tasked with presenting, essentially a report to the legislature when we convene in January 13th, that gives people peace that we have looked at this issue thoroughly and that we understand what technologies we're dealing with. We understand anything that they may pose, and we're doing what's best for the taxpayer. We're doing what's best for the citizen of the state of Alabama and protecting our interests and protecting our people through the way that these are applied. So with that, I was going to see, we do have a lot of great stuff here in front of us with Joey. Joey, if you're ready, I'll go out of order since you've got all here. Okay, well, we're going to let Joey Hamilton with Aaliyah go first since he's got this equipment here and just kind of give us an update on how Aaliyah uses these technologies and some of the challenges you may run into as well. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, sir. I'm Agent Hamilton with SBI. Jason Powell is our chief. He calls all the shots, and I try to follow him through without making too much of a mess of it. I've got a short PowerPoint that I think we're... All right, so this is what we'll do. So I just want to explain to you some of the equipment. Yes, we use DJI equipment. Just about solely. Everything we do is with DJI equipment. It's great stuff. I'd like to... A lot of things that are out there right now is DJI is bad, DJI is bad, DJI is bad. That's not so. Matter of fact, we're not even connected to the internet unless we want to be. Everything that we do, and of course all this information on the PowerPoint, is done in-house. I really don't think the Chinese care about me shooting a THI scene on the side of I-65. That's probably the last thing on their mind. But everything we do is done with DJI. We run about 2,100 to 2,200 law enforcement missions a year. And can you use the mic? I'm so sorry to interrupt you. No, you can pull it off if you need. I'm such a loudmouth. I thought it was. Anyway, so we run about 2,100, 2,200 missions a year, and that is solely law enforcement missions, and that's everything from barricaded subjects with hostages. That is. Search and rescue, marijuana eradication, moonshine eradication. Yes, moonshine's alive and well in Alabama. Let's see, pre-raid plans. Everything we do, all of our crime scene, all of our THI scenes are done with a drone. So now we still do it the old-fashioned way too when needed to, but it is such an officer safety deal for us, especially traffic homicide scenes, and I hate it, but we average about 300 a year, and that's only where litigation will be involved, or where somebody was killed and they shouldn't have been. It was somebody else's fault, and that goes from vehicles to pedestrian, hit by a vehicle, what have you. When we process these things, everybody in this room has seen a trooper standing beside the road with a stick taking measurements. I know you've seen that in your lifetime. Well, folks in Alabama run over you, all right, especially on the interstates. Everybody is so distracted while they're driving these days. They're not looking right in front of them. So what this has allowed us to do is get troopers and law enforcement out of the middle of the highway and allowed us, in what took them 4 to 5, even 6 hours to do a scene, we can knock it out in 20, 30 minutes. So, and the accuracy of the drones is literally unheard of. Using RTK devices, which we don't use, it isn't really necessary, but it can get down to as much as 3 centimeters X and Y, which is lat and long, and down to 1 centimeter lat and long, 3 centimeters vertical on the Z plane. it's never needs to get that close. I think there's a variance quite a bit larger than that. All of our traffic homicide, crime scene, if a crime takes place inside of a residence or location and it happens to end up outside, we can use our Faro scanner on the inside, use a drone on the outside, and we can overlay the two scenes together. So it's a double amount of accuracy on a scene, and it paints a picture. And I'm gonna try to make this short because there's so much information here that I'm just gonna blow through. We have 23 operators statewide. We cover all 67 counties. We have 46 drones. You're going, oh my God, 46 drones. Well, it's kind of like, you know, having a pair of scissors and a chainsaw. Two different things for two different jobs. It's just another tool on our belt. No, we're not anti-aviation. Matter of fact, I came over from Trooper Aviation to get the drone unit started. It's just another fantastic tool that we get to use, and we fly together, and we work together, and it's just a really great machine that we have going. We have tied everything that we have into our GIS system. So everything from the location of where the scene is, who flew the scene, the lat and long, how long it took. Everything about that scene is recorded on every flight that we make. So we're able to keep up with that with all our pilots, our operators. And Chief, I know I'm gonna leave a dozen things out here.
Yeah, I was hoping to get our PowerPoint going so you could go.
Is it up?
You need PowerPoint?
Yes, sir, please. That made my life easier anyway. I'm trying to remember this, and it's a lot. Yes, sir. Thank you. Oh, we're in business. Thank you. So again, all of our operators are SBI agents, which is a huge plus. Everybody that's sworn, it's a good thing for two reasons. We're out flying a scene or whatever, and you know, they always don't go like they're supposed to, especially if we're looking for a bad guy. So if a bad guy happens upon one of the operators, well, the joke's on him because he's a cop too. He's not just an individual. These are some of the drones we use now. DJI Mavic Pro 2, the Hasselblad camera is a German-made camera. It's really good. These were our go-to for mapping for a long time, but this is coming to an end of life. And they don't service them anymore. They don't sell parts anymore. They don't sell batteries anymore. There may be a manufacturer out there somewhere that'll sell some batteries, but you want to be careful about that. You don't know what you're getting, especially with lithium polymer batteries. And a lot of people, we handle lithium polymer batteries with care. Mavic 3 Enterprise is our go-to mapping drone at this point. It's got a 20 megapixel camera. It does a great job. It's 80 to 100 foot on most maps, gives us the resolution that we're after on any crime scene or any THI scene. The Mavic 2 Enterprise, these were some of our first drones that had FLIR, and they are at end of life also. Great drones, they served a purpose, but they're just like any other computer. These drones are actually flying computers is what they are. So they're made to fly, not hit the ground. So you got to treat them with care. The Mavic Zoom Pro 2 series. The M30T is one of our better drones. It has FLIR. It has a 200 times zoom camera. It has a laser rangefinder that will work up to, I think, about 3,000 yards. And it also has a wide angle mapping camera. Great drone. We map with these as well, but these are used for everything. The Matrice 200 version 2 is coming to end of life. It has 3 separate cameras that are used for it. And again, it won't be around anymore. The 300, which is very similar to what you see in front of you. This is a 350. Fantastic drone, stays up about 40 minutes. Now, DJI claims a 15.5 mile radius or kilometer. I'm sorry, but it's not getting out of our sight, and that's how it is. And that's our policy, as well as the FAA's. This is a 350 you see in front of you, and it's also sporting a H30T camera, which has a 400 times zoom, has high definition FLIR, and I'll show you that in just a second. It'll freak you out. A 4,000 yard rangefinder, and a wide angle camera. So these are some of the things that we use our drones for. And literally, if you can think of it, you can use a drone for it. I mean, honest, it's just, I'm not blowing smoke. Again, it is such a safety issue for law enforcement. I told somebody the other day, they asked me if I had to sum up in one statement, what would I say about drones? It's the greatest offering since the Glock, in my opinion. So it's helped that much. But, and you'll see some of these examples. We also have the ability, and this has been a big thing lately, we have the ability to detect drones. Now, this system's only supposed to work 3 to 5 miles. And I got up on the roof and tweaked it, and I can make it reach 35 miles. So, which is kind of crazy. But it is also a DJI product, DJI good, DJI not bad. So it shows us every bit of the information on the drone. We work with the Secret Service and the FBI. Anytime the president, vice president, or any dignitaries are in town, they use Wind Talker, which is a small radar. They can see an object, but they can't tell what it actually is. The drawback to the G8 is it only sees DJI drones. So we'll soon be trying to figure out a way to get something that picks up everything the way things are going. This is a picture it shows. It shows the drone information, the track of the drone, where the home point is, where the transmitter's at, and that's good. We're able to simply, I'm going to show you guys some numbers in a minute. It's going to be a little unnerving that happens right here in Montgomery. So this is a given week, this is a given month in a 5 mile radius from headquarters. And those stats are accurate. That's 352 drone launches, and we got people flying at 1,000 feet, over 1,000 feet. The ceiling for FAA, we're in Class D airspace here, so we're 200 feet. Everything else in Class G airspace is 400 feet. So, and we honor that. But not everybody does. So, and this is what that looks like in a 5 mile radius. All right, so this is a given year. Same radius, 5 miles. And it's 13,000 drone launches. And that's kind of crazy. And yes, we have them flying at 19,676 feet. That's why we need mitigation. We can stop that. Now, I don't mean stop it in a bad way. We can create a geo parking lot with mitigation. I can make it the front lobby, for that matter, of headquarters. The drone comes to us and lands. And the great thing about it, when people come to us to get their drones, and they will come for their drones, we can do one of two things. We can educate them, which is what we want to do. We want everybody to fly drones and have a great time. We just want them to do it safely and obey the rules. Or, you never know, they might have warrants and might have been using their drone for the wrong thing. That's what that looks like. Now this is 5 years and a 35-mile range, 26,000 drone launches. And that's crazy. You would never in a million years think that many drones have launched in a 35-mile radius of Montgomery, Alabama. But when you walk out the door, you're looking where you're going. You're not looking up. So you never know when there's a drone watching. And there's no point in even showing you what that looks like because it's just a blue blob. All right. So we are able to stream live video, not on a YouTube channel, not on anything out there. We don't touch the internet other than transmission, which is 128-bit encrypted. The little box you see on the table right there the privilege to work with a guy in California, and he made us this is dual SIM card. It works LAN, WAN, Starlink, and creates a Wi-Fi bubble. So if I'm on a scene and there's absolutely no phone service of any kind, or no Starlink, no Southern Link or what have you, I can hook to a small dish and pull down 150 megabytes right there on the scene, and everybody else can connect to it. So we have instant communication, and everybody knows how important that is. Our command staff can get on this system, and there are 7 of these. There's one in every region. Anybody that's got a drone in the air with a picture on, they have the credentials to sign on, command staff does, and they can click on any camera and watch. So if we have a major event going in the state, they can view it from wherever they are, including EMA and dispatch resources. This is a map. We're divided up just like EMA in regions, but these are our pilots and roughly where they live to a scene, and everybody refers to this map a lot. And any of you taking pictures of this, make sure these are personal numbers of these guys. So, GIS. Again, we map everything with a DJI drone, and it's processed through DJI. My brain's working faster than my mouth can do. We process through GIS, through drone to map. These are all our pilots. These are official maps that have already been done. We can see everything about our entire program on our GIS screen. And we have some great GIS people. This is an actual scene that was shot. The blue dots are pictures. The yellow lines are the path that the drone took. This is set up through AI, through the app that we use for DJI. And it's a wonderful thing. I could never fly a line that straight. So this is finished map. And I don't know if you can see it or not. Over the right-hand side, there's a 1:8 black and white scale. That's how we scale our maps. When it's pulled into Faro, it's actually scaled with their scaling tool, and it's within centimeters of accuracy. It's kind of primeval, but it's super simple. It works. So measuring tape hadn't been beat for 100 years. So I can tell you in court, or I can tell you how bad a scene was. All day, yes, it was horrible, but when I show you in 4K video, it changes things dramatically. So it goes from, yeah, that's awful, to, oh my God, I hate that happened, But this is on one of our interstates. And this was somebody running from the city police. So they decided to make a hard right and go onto the on-ramp, and it didn't end well. So this is one of those times where we would have blocked up the interstate for hours, and cars would have been hitting each other in the back because it's got that inchworm thing going, which we knocked out in 30 minutes, and the interstate was freed up. So another THI map. This involved the sheep right there's a 6-year-old. So those are the worst. This just happened, US 80 last week. So it was horrible. I will not go into the details. How there was not more than one fatality, I'll never know. There were 13 cars involved. And it was crazy. But that's one car. That's the next car. And that's the 18-wheel. And you just don't think, everybody has such a false sense of security in your vehicle, and you see everybody running 80 and 90 miles an hour down the interstate. And this was a police chase. So the car all the way up at 12 o'clock in the top was a Montgomery undercover. So this mark right here was point of impact. That's the bad guy. That's the trooper chasing him. This guy blew this intersection, hit this car right here, and knocked him all the way up and tore the front porch off the house. So we were able to get a good record of the whole thing. You don't, when you're walking around a scene and you're looking at things, whether it be a crime scene or PHI or what have you, you just can't see from right here what you can see from above. And that, especially shadow marks where a car slid down the road. Now, I know a lot of you've seen black marks on the road where a car slid and you came back a week later, where did the black marks go? It's because they dissipate, they go away. The rubber compound that your tires are made out of, when they slide across the asphalt, everybody running over, rain, wind, the whole 9 yards, it washes the pavement and they go away. Well, we get to record them and we can go back and look at it. Overwatch for SWAT, or any other organization needs Overwatch. Any large details that has dignitaries or what have you, we can do Overwatch. This was down in the country. SWAT was making entry into this house. We had a guy that shot, I believe, wasn't it ATF agents, chief? Yeah, that was stupid. But fortunately, he wasn't in here. But if anybody bolted out the back of that house, I can see it for anybody else.
I want to be sewing the back of the fucking house.
This is the actual end of that scene. This is at night, about 2 o'clock in the morning. We searched for this guy for a couple of days, and he ended up back at his mother's house. And he fired up his cell phone. First thing he did when he got there is plug his cell phone up and start making phone calls. You know, you got to be tough if you're gonna be stupid. You know what I mean? So anyway, so we waited out there for a while, and this is in real time. Storm damage. This is huge, especially when there's fatalities involved, and we can record that. We can go out and give a heads up to emergency management or law enforcement, so assets can be sent out. And this, again, this can be done over live stream, so people can be sending out the assets that are needed before anybody ever, leaves their home, and that's great. That's huge on time. And I won't drag through that, but there's a few pictures in here, and that was pretty bad. This is Wind Creek State Park. This was up in Jefferson County in 2021. The tornado set up there. Again, the assets are huge as far as having drones and having them at your fingertips and being able to deploy them. Again, I can't say enough. Search and rescue, escaped convicts. Oh gosh, nighttime we have the same ability. It doesn't matter if it's night or day. I can see you. It don't matter if it's 100 degrees outside. If you know how to use your drone and you've been to a FLIR class, I had the benefit of qualifying on the 380 HTC, which is on our helicopter, and the 8500 and the Churchill Moving Map system. So this was, to have this ability and knowing what I know and the training that I had, this is like crazy. That's a lot of hogs, by the way, for you hog hunters. So, if that were a human walking across there's absolutely no doubt that it's a human. But I couldn't resist recording this just to show how well. Narcotics bus, guy runs from Montgomery, ends up not too far away near some railroad tracks. I'm not telling you for a reason. But if you look right there, those are the dogs, DOC dogs, and using a drone in hot weather is just a matter of moving around through the canopy and getting your view. And we tracked. They're in a place where there's alligators, I'll put it that way. So I don't know whatever happened to the guy. I don't know if they ever even caught him. Do you know, Chief? I don't remember. So, but yeah, so there's your answer. Can I see you through the foliage? Somewhat. Yes, I could track you. And the great thing is, again, I'm not preaching against helicopters, but it's way less noise. And 9 times out of 10, when the helicopter is searching and moves away, they think, oh, the coast is clear. And that's where we can spot them with a drone. So, this was a search for a convict. So, the reason I recorded this one, I kept picking up an anomaly. When I say an anomaly, that's something I have no idea what it is. But it was fairly large, and the guys were looking at it, and I kept saying, guys, you got a giant heat signature just to the back of you. You're 6 o'clock. I said, I don't know what that is. I said, be careful. Come to find out, it was an uncovered well in the middle of the woods. Nobody saw it but me. And if I hadn't warned them, they could have walked right off in it. So, alcohol control. How in the world are you going to control alcohol with a drone? You'd be surprised. The Auburn Rodeo, we made 11 arrests the last time we were there. We were able to spot kids without the bracelets on, and they looked mighty young. And we were able to spot them and go check them out. And this was the final. This is right before we left. I call this the teenage salute. But I finally dropped down low enough just so they could see me. And he spots me, and they gave us a middle finger. And kept right on drinking. So, I hope this is nobody you know. We use it for traffic control as well. We had traffic backed up from the rodeo all the way to both county lines. And troopers were able to use resources and be able to control that traffic better. That's a lot of cars. There were 22,000 tickets sold, and there was 100,000 cars there. It beats anything I've ever seen. And they were coming in all the way up till 8 o'clock, and it's really just getting started at this point. That's the stage area. So all the fields you see roughly at the 12 o'clock on that screen as it goes around, all those fields were full. All the way to the trees, all the way back as far as you can see. And my hat's off to the security team and the folks that parked those cars. Holy cow. I think that pans down in a second. Yeah, it was just a stupid amount of cars. All right. I hope that was short enough and good enough, and I'll answer anybody's questions to the best of my ability, if you got any.
Well, thank you, sir, and I will open the committee up for any questions or comments you have about Mr. Hamilton's report here.
I just have a quick question. So you mentioned the transmission box. What are y'all using any other software when you're actually flying the drones, and what type of software? Are you flying in the DJI software, or you're flying?
Absolutely, DJI App 2.
Okay.
Mr. Hamilton, I have a question. I'm over here.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned mitigations. What steps or procedures you have in place to resolve those mitigations?
The mitigation I'm speaking of is how to stop a drone from going somewhere we don't want it to go. So currently, I mean, we can't control FAA, the national aerospace. We can't control that, and we can't make rules governing that. That's all federal. However, I think some legislation was just passed for no-fly zones over jails, prisons. I hope one day maybe over the Capitol and some of those places. Now, if you've got the correct credentials, you know, you can fly over some of these places, you're gonna have an escort. Because here's the thing, I don't mind you getting pictures. None of us do. We want you to get the pictures that you want to get, journalists, whoever. We want you to get them. But you got to understand, you're going to be responsible civilly if your drone runs in and knocks a hole in the top of the Capitol, and that's an expensive roof. So, or if it falls and hits an individual, even though it's public property on the Capitol, you're still responsible civilly if you hit somebody with your drone. So we just want people to understand that. Now, if we ever have a mitigation system in place, it'll be as simple as make a geofence around the Capitol, and your drone just won't fly there. And if it goes into that space, then it'll go land in that make-believe parking lot I talked about, and come see us. And hey, man, you can't fly your drone there. Well, why not? Well, this is why, and we'll educate them on the reasons they can. So. No, it's not. It's not available to state, local, tribal, or county. I think military and DHS may.
There are new rules coming about that, and the first class for the counter UAS stuff is happening to.
Right now, we have nothing.
Oh, sure, but the first class for FBI is actually happening today in Huntsville. So.
And I mean, there's devices out there that can be purchased if you're allowed to purchase them.
Yeah, but watch out for that 747 that's beyond what you're pointing at.
So obviously this is incredible utilization and an incredible tool, and I have no doubt it's saving lives. I mean, in many ways. I'll just kind of get to the elephant in the room. Probably the past 3 years in Alabama, we've had separate different bills that would have affected procurement by law enforcement on different unmanned aircraft vehicles. There was a bill passed in Florida in 2021 that specifically prohibited foreign drone sales essentially to local, county, state, municipalities, universities, everybody that receives state funding essentially to buy those products. In your take, how would you see a law like that impacting your drone program?
It would impact me to the tune of about $3.5 million is what it would do. If you, so, and I'm not going to get into name brands on drones because we tested a bunch of them, and they I'm sorry, they fall short. I would like nothing more than to have a 100% American-made drone unit. I'm one of the biggest patriots you'll ever meet. But when it comes down to something that costs 10 times what my drone that we use now costs, that will not do the job in any shape, form, or fashion. And recently I tested a drone and I gave them the data from the DJI and theirs. And they said, we want that data. Sure, got nothing to hide. It was an honest, open, and it was not even close. There's such a huge difference. And we've taken every precaution. Now, you have to do firmware updates on DJI, but, a Leonette is so heavily firewalled, and, I don't think there's anything crazy that would come through there without our system catching it first. But yeah, we don't touch the internet unless we need to. And that's just not anything I'm scared of. It's just, I don't want anything. That's why we kept everything in house. I don't want a picture of somebody's loved one showing up on Facebook and them finding out that's how they passed away because somebody, that's not cool. So, but I've been using them. The first available gimbal drone was 2008. Was an Inspire 1. Hideous looking thing, but it worked like champ. Yeah, had to, and if you had one of those, you were the man. So, but and it's just everything has just grown, and technology's gotten so much better all this time. And till you see what you got in front of you, I really would hate to see DJI go away. Not only from the monetary value, but nothing can touch it.
Yeah, and, sorry, was someone trying to chime in?
Yeah, James J., just for 1 second, and maybe Pete Whelan can chime in here, but the cybersecurity concern is not that we're gonna see a car crash on Facebook. It's that persistent threats are transferred from a foreign-made drone, typically China, and that threat, or wormhole, as you've probably seen in the movies, then finds its way onto an ALIA server and then traverses its way through our government networks. And a number of things can happen at that time. Data can be exfilled, PII, bank account information, just name it, that's what can happen. Not to mention ransomware and other types of things. So my concern is not somebody seeing a videotape of a crash scene on Facebook. That's just, I don't even know how realistic that is. It's also stolen data, so we can contact Facebook immediately to have it taken down. But it's the exfil of human data and financial data belonging to the state of Alabama and its employees, and maybe even its citizens, that can be taken. And that's a much more sophisticated sort of networking than simply plugging into the internet. That's not what China designs its spy chips to do. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Town. And I guess my follow-on to, and kind of alluding to what he gets to, so you said, you don't connect to the internet. Is there any kind of guidance you provide to local, municipality, police departments, or are they really their own separate entities? Because I guess my theory is you guys are doing it right, but there maybe not be a standardization throughout the state. Is there any discussion around that?
Education is huge, no doubt about it. And most departments that end up with a drone, especially, they go out and spend $20,000, $30,000 and get top of the line everything. And I hate to see this, they never use it. Or if they use it one time with no training, they never use it again. And it sits in the closet because they were never trained to begin with on how to use it. And we've explored, I've just been blessed a lot of different ways to be able to dig into this. And of course, human curiosity, I'm a tech guy anyway. If you tell me it's gonna do this, well, guess what? I'm gonna go check it and see if it does that, just to satisfy my curiosity. But we also, in the process, we were put in charge of building a unit that was the real deal, that everybody could benefit from, not just us. And it's worked out that way. I've trained a lot of different police departments on how to get a certificate of authorization from the FAA and how to use their drones. And as far as I know, they're successful. So, but yeah, training, that's huge, no doubt.
And just real quick, back to what Jay was saying there. Is there a cybersecurity check or a software you can use to essentially check these devices for tampering or spyware, essentially?
Not that I have it available to me. If there were, by all means. And that's a great point. Instead of knocking all the drones out of the air, I mean, we've got a lot of smart people in the United States. Why can't we come up with a way or an interface or what have you? And because the app is really well thought out. I mean, these guys that fly them, they know that, yeah, absolutely. And everybody else kind of beats around it. But they thought it out well. If we could come up with a way to take this software over, or you know what I'm getting at, that would be fantastic, and it would be great from a money aspect as well. To not cost us, more money to replace our
Yeah.
drone.
And I would like to add, none of our drones are connected to our network, so.
Yeah, no,
They
they're
never
not.
get connected to
Ever.
really anything, So if we connect to the internet, it's done through a hotspot, so.
Gotcha.
And I'll say this from a state perspective, the DOT, we've been flying drones since 2016. So we fly every day of the week. If the weather's good, we're flying somewhere in this state. Last year, we did over 4,350 flights. We are a DJI house, just like Aaliyah. I've worked with Joey on some other things. You know, when we want to fly downtown, we go through Joey and make sure our drones are registered through them. So when we put our drone up, they know it's us and we're legal. So, but from our standpoint, we've always tried to do it right. And if we've got to change or flip from DJI to something else, which right now is going to be just about impossible because we've done the same tests Joey's done with some other drone companies, and I'm not going to mention names. They're just not comparable to what we're seeing out of DJI right now. And then you get into a cost thing. $3.5 million is probably low in my estimate what it's going to cost. But when we get to replacing all the state agencies and what we're doing, it is going to be astronomical if we don't get any help from the feds, which there's talk about that too. So I just want to get a state perspective in there, agency.
I'm going to add my 2 bits in on that. We're not DJI completely, but we are an Autel house. Same issue. We currently have one drone that has a true night vision camera on it. It is not available anywhere else. There is no other manufacturer that builds that night vision camera. And some of our counterparts, some of our peers down in Florida are doing what they call, what was the term? They're drone laundering. In that since the state will not let them fly their DJIs on state money, they're going to contractors buying DJIs and flying DJIs because the unnamed drones will not perform the way they need them to perform.
They just went around the circle.
They went around the circle, and they're using tools like ATAC and other tools like that to air gap. And I know that DJI has offered the government multiple times the opportunity to come in and pen test their aircraft, and it's crickets. So.
Appreciate that. I believe, Kat, we will let you present here next, but first I'll grab these other hands here. Dr. Wieland, if you wanted to chime in.
Just a quick question. I might have missed something on the one chart you had. It seemed like you could view what was being seen from the other drones in the area there. You had the chart that I didn't follow that. It was in your briefing. You kind of talked about you could see the different drones. You get the different.
The detection.
And so you can actually see, besides detecting them, you can actually see what they're looking at? Was that what you said? You're
No.
able to give them
No,
their
sir.
speed?
I can tell you where the transmitter is, where the home point began, or where the drone started from. Yeah, and where its actual flight course in real time. I can actually see, I can't physically see it, but I can see it on the computer screen, the line that it leaves, and I can tell where it went and where it's headed, or, which direction it's headed.
Okay, no, I thought, you could do that, but I thought you were like looking at what they could see, which I thought would be kind of amazing, but okay.
No, that would be awesome.
Anybody else have any more questions for Joey or comments? Okay. Well, I will, again, thank you for this. Is there anything else you wanted us to know about this bad boy?
Well, I made a comment about high definition FLIR, and I don't know how we can get this up on the screen, but day or night, doesn't matter.
Mark, you're a big target.
You guys can see the line. But it's just that, at 400 foot, I hate to say this, at 400 foot, I've actually been able to see a deer give birth in the woods. It was crazy. Yeah, never expected to see that. So the stuff we see, but yeah, it's just kind of, and that H30T has that night camera you're talking about, and it's crazy good. So
I know this is what happens when you get old, you get excited about stuff like this. Anyway.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you for what you do. Awesome, keeping our officers safe, keeping the people safe as well. So we've got a couple more, I think, good presentations here coming up. Speaking of DJI, so we do have Miss Kat Ramsey with DJI, and that's all the information I have. So, Miss Ramsey, I'll let you introduce yourself if you're able to hear us and chime in.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here this afternoon, and thank you for accommodating a virtual conversation. Before I jump into intros and my presentation, I am hoping that I am able to address a lot of the questions that were raised previously. And if I'm not, please remind me at the end of the discussion. By way of quick intro, I joined DJI about 6 months ago as the Director for U.S. Government Relations. Prior to joining the company, I spent about 12 years of federal service, most recently of which with the Department of Homeland Security. So I have a very vested interest in not only national security, but ensuring the efficacy of federal law enforcement activities. So that was my role. This is why I'm here now, and I'm happy to present on a number of our safety, security, and measures this afternoon.
Very good. Feel free to go.
Excellent. I'm going to try to share my screen. Give me 1 minute. It's been a minute since I've done this, so bear with me. Let's see here. Yeah, I apologize. Oh, it wants me to access my privacy and security. All right. Well, rather than giving death by PowerPoint, I'm happy just to deliver some talking points for all of you, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Well, excellent. Well, first of all, thank you to Mr. Hamilton for providing such a deep dive analysis of the capabilities of DJI drones, particularly from a law enforcement perspective. That is one of the things that we are most proud of, the use of our drones for law enforcement. But I will start with just a quick background and history of our company. We started in 2006. We were started by our founder and CEO in his dorm room at the University of Hong Kong. We were the first to design and offer a drone-in-the-box solution, drones that are immediately ready to fly as soon as you open the box. We introduced our Phantom drone in 2012, and this was the world's first ready-to-fly camera drone. Since then, we have innovated and expanded into other sectors beyond photography and filmography. Most notably, we launched our first agricultural drone in 2015 and introduced our first enterprise drone in 2016. Now, I think a number of the drones that are currently used within Alabama law enforcement are enterprise drones. I know not all of them are, but just for awareness, the enterprise line of drones feature industrial grade materials that are particularly useful for law enforcement, search and rescue operations, and other specialized public safety missions, many of which have already been discussed today. DJI products generally are used to increase safety and efficiency in public safety, for mapping and surveying, the energy industries, agricultural sector, for environmental protection and forestry efforts, and within the maritime sector. If I could have gotten my screen to share, we had a couple photos of examples of our drones in the field. I also had a map that was very helpful in showing instances where DJI drones have facilitated search and rescue efforts. One of the things that I think was already touched upon, but it is the capability of many of these enterprise drones to have thermal capabilities, which is very helpful for identifying heat factors at night or within potentially buildings that may be at risk for fire hazards. And our drones are also able to withstand extreme temperatures and high winds, which makes them particularly useful for persons in adverse conditions. Most importantly, I think, for the conversation today is how seriously we take safety and security. For more than 10 years, we have constantly led the industry in advancing drone safety and often implement safety and security measures prior to being regulated. For example, in 2022, we introduced remote ID about 18 months prior to the FAA requiring the same. Remote ID is required in any drone over 250 grams, and it identifies individual drones and their locations, which I'm sure many of you here know is extremely helpful for law enforcement. We also introduced altitude limits and GPS-based geofencing, implemented return to home tech if a drone loses connectivity or is at critical battery life. This ensures that your drone returns back to the end user before it unfortunately falls out of the sky. Again, we do take safety very seriously. And we have also introduced sensors to avoid obstacles in approaching aircraft. Additionally, we offer what we call a bug bounty program. And this is a voluntary program by which security researchers or end users can report any security vulnerabilities found in DJI products or services to help us improve our IT security. Basically, we are looking to the user to help us identify any bugs. We do not want any of our drones or any of our products out there that might have some holes in our security measures. So we do actually offer financial incentive for people to bring those to us so that we can then fix them. We also offer what we call local data mode. This is where you toggle your drone where there is no connection to Wi-Fi, 4G, or 5G. By providing third-party software, which I can talk about a little bit later, that can be manually uploaded. This requires no connection to the internet. Essentially, if you're in local data mode with third-party software, you're operating a drone that is as secure as an air-gapped computer. There's no information going in and no information going out. One of the other things I will discuss a little bit more are our ongoing third-party reviews and audits. Now, in general, DJI operates under 4 principles of safety and security. One is transparency and education, where we remain open and transparent about our security and data practices, and will continue to make our data management and system security information easily accessible to our users. 2, we want to give users control of both their safety and their security measures. 3, we do independent validation, these reviews and audits, which I'll touch upon a little later. And 4, community collaboration. In addition to the bug bounty program, we actively engage with experts, enthusiasts, and other members of the drone community to hear their suggestions on how to further strengthen our systems. So the first pillar I'm going to address is transparency and education. On the DJI website, and if helpful, I can send our presentation over after this discussion so that you can see all of this. But on the DJI website, you are able to maneuver to what we call the Trust Center. This identifies all of our independently convened audits, any of our publicized papers, but most importantly, it directs users to our drone security white paper, which was updated for the 3rd time this year. The white paper provides a deeper look into all our security efforts. It addresses chip and hardware security, firmware security, and various types of data security and privacy controls. So if you really want to do a deep dive, I am more than happy to send over the white paper. I think it's incredibly informative. On our second principal pillar, DJI gives users control. User control means users can choose what, if anything, to share with DJI servers. Traditionally, DJI users have had the option to opt in to share flight logs, images, videos, etc. with DJI servers. However, in the US, as of last year, we no longer offer even that option. Users cannot share any information with DJI servers. All information is stored on third-party Amazon AWS servers. We believe that users should have control over their data and continue to expand the privacy controls that we have built into our drones. Users can choose to fly offline by simply activating their local data mode. Again, this severs the connection between their flight app and the internet, so data won't be shared even inadvertently, just like that air-gapped computer we talked about. Privacy preferences may be adjusted at any time by using the flight app settings function. And then again, if I had the PowerPoint in front of us, I would be able to show you how a user can activate their local data mode with the app settings. I would also be able to show you our privacy policy consent request form and privacy settings access. The consent form and the settings access is basically anything that you would see on your iMac or on your iPhone when you are opening up a new app. I just wanted to address quickly the difference between consumer drones and enterprise drones as far as data security. For consumer drones, upon purchase, a user needs to provide only an email and user ID and password to create their account. We do not have any database that even holds that email. Basically, we just want to ensure that it is an accurate email and it acts as their user ID. We provide device hardware info and require the approximate location to activate and use the drone. At any time, the user can amend their privacy preferences, delete data, or fly in local data mode without internet connection. Enterprise model drones have a bit more enhanced user controls, again, because they're used mostly in law enforcement, public safety, things like that. We want to ensure they're a bit more secure. Upon account setup, the user may choose what we call standard mode, restricted mode, or local data mode. Restricted mode is basically the middle ability to share information between standard mode, where things are completely open, local data mode, where things are completely closed. Restricted mode is a data security feature that disables most network functions to prevent accidental data sharing. Enterprise users may fly and update drones manually so that they remain offline. And again, we have also partnered with third-party software companies who provide alternatives to the DJI Pilot Flight app. You do not have to use our software. Again, apologies. If we had the PowerPoint, we would have a couple names, but some of the bigger US software manufacturers with whom we partner are DroneSense, Drone Deploy, and Flock Safety. And you may have heard of many of those, but again, they're US companies with whom we partner to ensure users have the ability to use US apps. All right. Any drone data shared with DJI is TLS protected, which means it is encrypted in transit, and personal data is also encrypted in storage. Any drone data shared with DJI outside of China is stored on a US-based server. That any drone outside of China their information is stored in the US. The only difference here is the Agris drone, which is our agricultural model. That data may be stored in servers in the US, Japan, or Europe, depending on the respective regions in which that particular Agris is operating. We have a couple other methods to secure data. Our Flight Hub 2 is an ISO 27001 certified option for operators who want to manage teams, drone fleets, and media libraries efficiently. Private cloud deployment is also available. Third-party developers can build private cloud solutions using standards and protocols. All right, we are now on to Pillar 3, independently validated security reviews. We periodically submit our products for independent security audits, where third-party experts have procured DJI products off the shelf and conduct a thorough technical investigation to assess if what we claim about our data security and privacy measures is true. Off the top of my head, we most recently had one conducted by one of the Department of Energy's labs on behalf of CISA for the Department of Homeland Security. There was an audit done by Booz Allen, and there are a number of third-party audits that I can link to during the course of this conversation, since I was unable to pull up my presentation. I will note that we started this in 2017, and that findings have consistently demonstrated that DJI aligns with industry best practices for security, and that we do not share data with any unauthorized party. In 2022, in particular, an audit confirmed that DJI products met NIST standards for security and privacy protection, including NIST IR 8259. US and international governments validated DJI's core crypto engine. This is the firmware that provides security services for the drone platform and confirms that it meets NIST Federal Information Processing Standard 142 for cybersecurity. Again, all of this can be accessed through DJI's Trust Center site, and if you don't mind, I will drop that link into the chat before we sign off today. I do want to note that earlier I think there was a question about the US government conducting a penetration test. We can discuss that later if you like, but I do want to clarify that that is true. We have asked the US government to conduct an audit, a penetration test of our products. We have nothing to hide, and we certainly are open to any formal US government look into our products. Okay, finally, pillar 4 of our principles is community collaboration. We want to hear from our end users. We truly seek partnerships from those most passionate about our products. The Bug Bounty Program, as I discussed previously, is one such method for doing this. Additional info on our Bug Bounty Program can be found through DJI's Security Response Center. And I also would like to add that that is one of the reasons I'm so happy to present here today, is because we really are looking for partners with whom we can work to ensure that we are offering the most secure and safe drone possible for use in law enforcement and other sectors. That would have come to the end of my presentation. I really appreciate your patience due to my technological glitches here, but I'm happy to answer any questions or make any clarifications.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Appreciate your presentation, and the products that are used here in Alabama have kept people safe. With that, I'll open it up to the committee for any questions here primarily on the security pieces, I imagine. Dr. Whelan.
I just got a question about, have you considered having like no-fly zones or keep-out zones that people like the folks you just heard earlier, law enforcement could rule out the Capitol building or something like that, or,
Sure.
how's that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So we used to offer geofencing. We don't anymore. Unfortunately, our end users, particularly in the U.S., had indicated that geofencing really inhibited the ability for public safety agencies to conduct mission critical or emergency operations. So we no longer offer geofencing. I will note that no other drone manufacturer does offer geomanufacturing. What we do offer is updated maps that do identify these critical areas that could be considered no-fly zones. For example, you cannot fly a drone anywhere within the Washington, D.C. area for obvious reasons. If you are attempting to fly a drone near a sensitive site, near an airport, something like that, you are going to get 3 warnings on your drone that pop up and that you have to turn down before you have the ability to fly within that area. So 3 times you're going to have to tell your drone, no, I'm confident I want to fly near this airport. No, I'm confident I really do. No, I'm confident I have permission to do so. So there are warnings that are built into our maps that do identify sensitive locations. I hope that answers your question.
But it would be doable, though, have the law enforcement, almost like the system administrators, be able to fly where they want and then be able to turn off zones for other people, wouldn't it? The commercial users.
I don't know the detail on that. I don't know if the representative from ALEA can answer that, but if he can't, I'm more than happy to take that back and talk to our enterprise solutions folks, and they'll probably have the answer for you.
There used to be what's called a QEP code that we had to send a serial number, flight controller number, and the email address of the operator at ALEA that used it, and we could fly anywhere in North America without any problem while the geofences were in place.
Okay. Because that was, I guess, one of the reasons they stopped doing, managing the geofences would also be kind of an issue. But I would think that you could have a database within a state or a region or something like that. All right.
That's a good thought. Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. So, part of the reason this was created, obviously some other states have taken, dramatic action. The DOD has prohibited certain purchases. As you look, you probably have a wider view than any of us as far as just the enterprise and what's going on throughout the other states. Are there any states where they have implemented requirements for government to air gapping technologies or a third party cyber check on your products, but still permit procurement?
Unfortunately, I can't answer that question necessarily. I'm usually focused on our federal work, and the gentleman who focuses on our state level work was unable to join today. But I guarantee you he will know that almost off the top of his head, so I will ask him that as soon as we finish up this call.
Yeah, no problem. We'll follow up as well.
Thank you.
Anyone have any additional questions, comments? Okay, we'll send you any follow-up questions. Definitely appreciate the presentation on who you guys are here in America.
Yeah, and thank you for your patience. And like I said, I'll drop a link to our trust center in the chat so that you can have it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So last but not least, we wanted to have the opportunity, not seeing, maybe he's on the second page here, but Mason Sink with the Association of Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International to offer some additional perspective. So, Mason, are you online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Great, we sure can.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and commission members, for allowing me to address you today. My name is Mason Sisk. I serve as Director of Government Affairs for AUVSI. As mentioned, AUVSI is the world's largest nonprofit trade association dedicated to advancing uncrewed systems and robotics. We represent a broad coalition of U.S. manufacturers, component suppliers, enterprise users, and others. And we have created a coalition that we called the Partnership for Drone Competitiveness that's focused on bolstering the U.S. drone industry. Transitioning away from the small UAS manufactured or assembled by the foreign adversaries is vital to safeguarding America's national security. We believe it's essential that we become more competitive in respect to the advanced aviation and drone manufacturing, especially when it comes to the vulnerabilities that have been mentioned, not only the cybersecurity risk, but supply chain vulnerabilities as well. And just as a reminder, I know a couple of these things were mentioned, but as far as federal action goes, in 2023, Congress enacted the American Security Drone Act, restricting federal agencies from acquiring foreign-made drones. And then, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, the DoD began removing them back in 2017. And most recently, as part of the 2025 National Defense Authorization Act, the Countering CCP Drones Act was part of that legislation, and that is what has required a federal agency to do a security audit of specifically DJI and Autel manufactured products. So far, no agency has stepped forward with some sort of security audit, and if none is done, those drones will be placed on what's called the FCC covered list, and then they will be no longer able to be sold or imported into the United States. That deadline is fast approaching on December 23rd of this year. So if no action is taken by a federal agency to conduct that report, then the FCC will no longer allow those to be imported. They actually also made a rule just recently that they can retroactively apply that to drones on the shelves. They won't necessarily disable products that are still in consumers' hands, but ones on the shelves that have already been admitted into the United States may also be affected by their placement on the FCC covered list. So I mention that because a lot of the states, what you're seeing is that they're taking a proactive approach in transitioning away from foreign adversarial made drones. Florida, I know that program was mentioned. North Dakota recently passed a $9 million appropriation to replace all of their state level drones. And Virginia as well has put together a program for both local first responders and Virginia State Police. And so I think what's important to remember here is it's not only some of these data vulnerability questions that are being raised, but we really need to think about this as an investment in American innovation. And as far as taxpayer dollars go, investing in companies outside of the United States, we're really paying for their innovation and not putting that back into American drone innovation. And so I just wanted to make a couple of those points clear. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I was a last minute add to the agenda today, so I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sisk. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Yeah, I'll add one. This is Matt from Skyfire AI. So we're AUVSI members. I'm on the Air Advocacy Committee, so this is not probably anything I haven't already said to AUVSI leadership. But I guess just one comment that I certainly, as Joey mentioned, we would all like to see an all American-made drone fleet, and we would all like to invest in the drone manufacturing base here in the U.S. I think the bigger question, though, is are we going to do that on the backs of our law enforcement agencies who are currently using hundreds, if not thousands, of Chinese-made drones to do their jobs today, when replacing them is not just as simple as, well, we just switch to this other option because it may be unavailable, it may not work as well, and it may be 10 times more expensive. So I think it's important to clarify, for the sake of the committee purposes, that while that all sounds great, and I don't disagree that that's where we should be heading, that we need some type of off-ramp to give us some time to get there. And what we're heading for in December is going to end up creating quite a disaster for public safety agencies across the country if they're no longer allowed to utilize these drones. So as I said, big proponent of what AUVSI is doing. I think it's very important that we also call for a reasonable approach to this rather than what you might call a rip and replace model. So.
Yeah, if I could respond to that, yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that because, although we do, support transitioning away, we've been very clear that, we believe there needs to be a reasonable transition period, like you mentioned. I mean, we can't, it's not something that can happen overnight. So, when we visit with state legislators and other policymakers, we really try to make sure that that's a part of the equation, that there's, that the investments made by public safety agencies and other, local law enforcement, that they're not being wasted, that they're getting the useful life out of what they've already invested in before having to be transitioned. And we also really encourage states to create these grant programs to help offset the cost of more expensive American models, especially for local law enforcement where budgets are tighter. And so, yeah, I want to thank you for mentioning that, because it's important to clarify AUVSI's position that, we don't support legislation that's going to be a quick rip and replace, overnight, you're no longer able to fly. We believe that drones absolutely need to be in the hands of our first responders, and they're a critical tool that, obviously, as we saw today, I mean, everything that we saw in the presentation earlier is critical, and we support that those drones being used for those use cases.
I'm going to address one of the elephants in the room. The problem is that we're seeing is we're being told, oh, you need to get the U.S.-made equipment, and there's grants out there for you to get that at 4, 5, 10 times the amount we get. No matter what, that is still the taxpayer's dollar that we are using, and we are not seeing anything on the part of U.S. vendors in the way of trying to be competitive. They've got a market locked down right now that we are being forced into, and we are having to buy their product, and there is no incentive on their side to make those products affordable for the poor guy that's got a $50,000 a year budget. And that's just the way it is.
Thank you, Chad. Any other comments for Mr. Sisk or any of our other presenters here? Well, thank you, Mason. Appreciate it. Looks like Dr. Whelan may have had a question.
Just real quick there, Mason, you kind of ran down a list of other states that are, dropping DJI, but we just had the DJI brief, and they basically said they've kind of addressed all their issues of turning things off or made them non-accessible. So what are we missing here?
Thank you for that question. I think there seems to be some, discrepancy between, what's required by law in terms of a security check and some of the third-party checks that Ms. Ramsey mentioned earlier. And for whatever reason, there hasn't been a federal agency that's conducted that review that was required under the Countering CCP Drones Act. So, I can't really speak to where that divide is. Maybe she can give you a better answer.
Yeah, Ms. Ramsey, we'll go to you.
Sure, I'm happy to. I just want to make one clarifying point that the Countering CCP Drone Act actually did not pass last year. I think what Mr. Sisk is referring to is a section in the FY25 NDAA, which, as he notes, does require that one of 5 national security agencies pick up a penetration test and audit of our products. He's also correct that, as far as we know, no one has picked that up. We are very, very strongly encouraging one of these agencies to pick that up. We have written to all 5 agencies multiple times. We have been following very, very closely congressional engagement with some of those agencies who are encouraging them to pick up the audits so that they are in accordance with the law. I think one of the problems with that particular piece of legislation that is quite worrisome is that there is a bit of a trapdoor where if no agency picks up this audit, we are automatically added to the FCC covered list. Now, again, we've done all these third-party audits. We feel very, very confident in our ability to pass a federally backed audit, but we just cannot seem to get any of those agencies to pick it up. So I don't know if that answers the question necessarily, but we do feel confident that we will pass it. We just need to convince one of them to actually do the work. And I think having staffing shortages and a federal shutdown status isn't helping things as we near the deadline.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, I have a colleague that's on the call as well, Scott Stockman. He can also add, I think, some context from our point of view, if that would be all right.
Yeah, about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I just wanted to clarify that in section 1709 of the NDA, what you're talking about is what the requirement is a determination, not an audit. So that existing work could already be relied upon if they want to make that determination. And that determination states that DJI or Autel are an unacceptable risk to national security, which aligns with the Secure and Connected Networks Act and what determines what goes on the FCC's covered list. So just for your clarity, that's what is required by 1709, not a review, not an audit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. I feel like I just got a crash course in federal government. Good thing we got simple Alabama government here, right? We got a very short constitution to abide by. It's only the longest one in the United States, but thank you all, the presenters. Does anyone else on the committee have anything to add to the presenters? If not, I'll just close with saying we go in session in January. Very similar to what you said, Mr. Sloan, is we'd like to find a reasonable solution here. Like I said, we've had legislation the past 3 years that, in the eyes of Aaliyah, it sounds like would have gutted our programs. And in Huntsville and in, probably every small town that's got 1 or 2 drones, I don't think that's a desire. I do think we need to be proactive because, the federal government's working on this issue on a lot of different levels. There's a happy medium here. There's a level of cybersecurity we could probably look at implementing. Those are things we need to be discussing over the next month. Try to get to something that is agreeable, that is reasonable, that is actionable, and keeps those drones flying and doing what we need them to do in a way that also is very taking into account some of these issues that have been brought up today. So. That's our task. Happy with any input. Like I said, we owe the legislature something in January, action or not, and that's our task. So,
Can I add one?
Please.
Just one quick question while we've got you here, Joey. If in December the DJI is added to the FCC covered list, with the current fleet that you have, how long do you think you'd be able to operate with the current aircraft that you have without having to replace?
Well,
You might not know
it's hard to say.
Okay.
Until batteries ran out, they're no longer chargeable, or until the ability to, and it depends. If this goes into effect, will we still be able to get batteries?
Right.
Or parts, or in the answer is no to that, we won't be able to. But
So that may be something to consider, Chairman. Yeah.
To add to that, the other side of that is, even though they may last, say, 12 months, 15 months, getting the other hardware that is new, unproven, and into place may take 12 to 16 months to get it functional. So this is not a short-term problem.
and unless somebody steps up and comes up with a new device for us to use, we're gonna be standing there looking funny.
Well, I think, I mean, to add to that, goes like Joey said, without naming the manufacturer, the latest, greatest US drone we had for 2 weeks, and it just won't do what we needed
It
to.
just failed miserably.
We couldn't get it to fly.
I mean, we could use it, but we wouldn't be able to do some of the things that we do now, or some of the services we offer with some of the mapping stuff. I mean, it just won't do the same things. So,
That's all right. I
It's
mean,
not an arbitrary statement, I can prove it.
Well, it's a complex issue because I think, you know, the other products, the ones you guys use now, have been subsidized, and the United States has not subsidized to the level. You know, so I think there's going to be some stuff out of the national groups and out of DC but like I said, we just got to be proactive. So make sure we don't get shuttered, and make sure we can keep doing the mission, and also making sure we're thinking ahead too. So. With that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn if anyone has it.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
All right. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.